to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tomdutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tomdutta, like Butta, and this is the next generation of podcasting. We are live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. By the way, if you could just hit the subscribe if you're on the YouTube feed, that'll be awesome. It helps us gain notoriety for the show. It also helps our guests today so that people will watch more of that show. Let me talk to you about live streaming for a minute. Anybody who jumps on the live stream right now can chat with us. So in the chat feature on many of the feeds, you can put a question, you can put a comment, and as a host, I'll feature it on the screen. Secondly, this will be the live taping of a broadcast that will be an international podcast as well as a YouTube premiere video. And we're pleased to bring that to you. That'll be released in the future. Once the live stream is ended, the actual taping of the show will be sitting on all those feeds. You can go back and watch it. So it's kind of like stepping into a movie studio and you get to see all the bloopers and everything that we do here. And we'll be going for just under an hour today. So I'm really excited to share with you a lot of different elements we'll be doing. But first, without delay, I'm just going to introduce our guest and then bring her onto the screen here. So I just stand by, everybody, while I put something on the screen that I'd like to show you. So my guest today, well, I'm pretty excited to have Melissa Dawn on the show. Now, what you can see on the screen there, if you're on the podcast, you can't see it. If you're on the video, of course, you'll see it. This is Melissa's biography off her website. I'm just going to tell you a bit about her. She's a former vice president with over 2 decades of corporate experience. She focused on helping executives and high-level leaders connect with their inner leaders and take authorship of their paths, drive genuine change for themselves and those around them. She's a renowned speaker, author, and a master's certified coach, and also accredited by the International Coach Federation as a certified professional, and many, many other accreditations that you can find on her bio, and we'll put in the show notes. She's the author of best-selling books, I Attract What I Am, Transforming Failure into an Orgasmically Joyful Life and Business. There's a story there. And Why Can't I Just Be Me? Remove the masks that hide you from the world and from yourself. And the reason why I'm really excited about that last title is because, well, guess what? I've got it here. So I want to welcome you to the show, Melissa. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
All right, that's great. Now, we hear a little bit of fun going on in the background there. So you have a guest in your studio. We might as well just tell everybody about them right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No apology.
We have Biscotti here joining us.
Okay, wonderful. I love it. All right. Hello, Biscotti. Now, we just wanted to have her on the video feed so people know, and we keep it real. Biscotti, I love that. I was telling Melissa offline that my life partner, my wife Anna, is from Italy. I eat too many biscottis. Melissa, we're going to take a journey here down memory lane, but the first thing I wanted to say to you is that you're pretty amazing to be vulnerable about your life story, and we're talking about many things today. So we're going to be doing many segments on the show. I'm experimenting with a few things. Let me just tell you what we're going to surprise you with. We're going to take you into Plato's garden, and we'll explain what that is, where we're going to be having some conversations. We're going to be doing some imagining with AI. Imagining with AI. Tell you more about that later. We're going to have you do an author reading. Bet you didn't know that. I put you on the spot now, so I'm glad you have your book there. And I will surprise you at the end with a couple of awards, some things that we want to honor you with. And then we'll wrap up with the last word from you. When I asked you to come on the show, and everybody I met Melissa just through connecting, I asked you a simple question: why is your story a good fit for the Quiet Warrior Show? And most people will know that our show is built on the hero's journey narrative, which is a storytelling narrative. And you wrote me an answer, and I'm looking at it here on my screen, and I won't read the exact answer out. But I remember I challenged you back, and I said, you know what? You're not telling it all. Go deeper. And this was before I read your book, which is a complete, amazing reveal of your whole life. And I think you wrote back to me and you said, thanks for your time invested in sharing your reflections, Tom. I'm totally grateful. Few people have done as much personal growth as you have. In the initial email I sent you, I wrote what I thought you needed to hear from a media perspective. And then Melissa went on to say, of course, I've made millions of mistakes. Where do I start? And she got into her whole story. So we'll start right there. Your book's all about vulnerability and bringing it and sharing it. Help me understand, because I was wondering, is that getting away from what you really believe, which is, I'm telling you my story from a media perspective, so I'm not going to really bring the real story. Just help me understand what that meant.
Well, because when you're pitching the media, the media is looking for certain elements. And, the idea is to get in front of people and then to share your story and then be vulnerable. So not everyone is vulnerable when they're looking at who to take onto their show. It's more about like what that person could offer them instead, and like how many views can this person get? Like how can they help me spread my show, right? So I didn't know you were like somebody that has done that much work.
So
and you really challenged me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So everybody, that's why we love having Melissa on, because you really are somebody who's done a lot of work to look at your life, and you're bringing that to the audio. One of the things that's interesting is I'm doing some research now on media, and I want to just share this with you, even get your perspective back, that there's this whole concept of fake news that's out there, and that term was actually coined in different parts about how people come on and you really only hear opinions. You don't hear facts. You hear a certain narrative that's meant to shift people's mindsets this way. The second thing about that really bothers me is I get guests coming to me, and a lot of the agents will send their profiles, and the profiles will have a picture of somebody who's sort of hand on their chin. So it's done by a pro photographer. It's not really real. And then it looks like this. Here's who I am. Here's how great I am. Here's all my accomplishments. You need me. Here's the questions you should ask me. And for the agents, and this doesn't mean that this is you, because you're very different, but I've built this show for years and challenging that. And I really believe that why your work is such a gift is that when we come on to a show, and it doesn't matter any media, people connect more to you, the goods, the challenges, than they connect to somebody who comes across as being so perfect that there's no downsides, because people can't connect to somebody like that, because that's not how life really is. Give me your thoughts on that.
It's very interesting you said this. I might get a bit emotional here. So I recently joined this leadership group, and we just had a leadership retreat in Spain. And just imagine a bunch of high-level coaches, and they kind of told me that. Here I am, and I thought I had removed all my masks. I thought I was down to like the bone, and they called me out. I was still having a coach mask. And
interesting.
This just came out recently. So really grateful. And I'd like to mention then here the Gnosis leadership group. They're really helping me in this journey. So, every time we think we've got it, there's like another layer and another layer.
Absolutely.
We need to keep going deeper.
And I think that's a great segue. And first of all, we honor you. That's why I call you a quiet warrior, because you're somebody who has a big voice, a big story, but quietly you bring that to the world. So let's give you some encouragement here, because you're so awesome. I want you to hold up the book that we're going to talk about today. Just hold it up and read the title out to us. I'm going to full screen you because you look awesome. There it is. Read us the title.
Why can't I just be me? Remove the masks that hide you from the world and from yourself.
That's so awesome. Everybody, I'm just going to give a shout out that you need to go to Amazon, buy this book. And you know what? Authors need to hear from you. So write a review. It honors the book. So Melissa, let's get into that. And look what I got here in the studio. I've got one. I
can't believe you have so many Post-its. I'm a bit afraid.
I'm honoring you, but I've read the book and I've gone through and I've actually highlighted a lot of things. So this is all about the story. So Melissa, what I want to do now is I just want to, because we're on camera, bring on a little bumper 14-second intro of this segment. All right. While I'm looking for this, you can talk over me. Tell us about the cover of the book and how do you choose that, and how did that kind of evolve and come about?
The cover itself or the title?
Anything you want. You can tell us anything you want. There's pictures. why did you write the book? The cover itself is kind of evocative. Is there anything you want?
So I released my first book 7 years ago,
Yeah.
where people were telling me to share my story about my life. And I was very, very vulnerable about, the fact, a lot of things that happened in my life. And the day I found out it was a best-selling book and everything, the day that I should have been celebrating, I got some feedback that I was too vulnerable.
Wow.
And yeah, it hurt.
Yeah.
And
Who gave
that's
you
what
that?
led.
Who gave you that feedback? I'm just kind of curious.
I saw some people close to me.
Yeah.
And one of them was actually, believe it, a shaman I was seeing at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what gave birth to this book. Like, why can't I just be me? I was just sharing my story in a very vulnerable way, and I was opening my heart. So it kind of hurt when I got that feedback, because
Yeah.
I had no
And
bad
what do you?
intentions.
Well, I want to honor you for saying that, and thank you. You're so great to share your feelings. What do you say to people who I mean, let's face it, people do get hurt by other people. People are critical of us and sometimes the things we do if we're authors and we write. What now, knowing everything you've learned about your journey and what you've written about, what do you say to other people who go through that?
Well, it comes down to the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of them is not to take anything personally. What someone says is a reflection of the journey they're at and has nothing to do with you. So
Wow.
you have to say that's where they're at on their journey, and they're allowed to have that opinion, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I have to take on their opinion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about masks for a minute with you, because you really caught me on that. I'm doing some work. I'm doing a doctoral degree right now, and some of the work I'm doing is about masks. And when I found you, I went, wow, there's somebody who really gets that. I also just want to share this for some extra value. There's a book that I found that I'm reading. It's called Mirrors and Masks, The Search for Identity by Anselm Strauss. It was something that my professor told me to read. And when I saw your cover, I went, yes, finally somebody who speaks about this concept of masks. And I had a theatrical mask made not too long ago. This is actually my mask. And I wear actually 6 masks, these different masks. And so tell us a bit more about this concept of mask. What do you mean by that?
Society expects different things from us, our parents, our colleagues, our bosses. And a lot of us put on masks to please them. We're like, well, when we're with this person, this is what they want to see. And when we're with this person, this is what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But we don't realize as we're doing this, we're not bringing our full self forward. We're just bringing the mask forward. And as long as we're wearing those masks, we don't have the opportunity for true connection and to have the conversations we really need to have to move things forward.
Wow, that's amazing. Some of the things I just want to riff with you on this, and that's what we're doing here is storytelling. When I think about all the masks I've come across in my own, I think about the mask that I am, the mask that you and I have in common, and the mask that I play. And just so you know, one of my masks, and I put them in pairs, is fear and determination. So if anybody learns and knows my story, my followers tend to know that I come from a dysfunctional beginning as a child, lots of maltreatment, and my brain doesn't see the world right. So I was reading your book, and there's some interesting things in it about being your real or authentic leader when you're amongst others in business. And Melissa, you really opened me up when I read that. That's why this book's such a gift, because before I figured all this math stuff out, I would sit in a room, and my background is a leader. CEO was actually what I did for a long time until I created my own platform. That I would sit, and what I saw my brain was taking in and telling me was going on outside was actually completely different. So my brain saw fear, and even now I manifest fear on the inside. People see me on the outside and go, wow, you're so confident, you're so positive. I go, yeah, I fooled you. Because on the inside, I'm constantly processing that fear, because the sympathetic nervous system in my brain, and through maltreatment, through a child who came from a fairly abusive background of a addicted parent, some research that I've come across in neuroscience says that your brain actually, the stress management system develops differently if in an early year you've gone through that. The amygdala can actually be scarred. And I won't get into all the jargon because that's not the purpose today. But your book was like, whoa, this lady gets it. So on that note, I've kind of thrown up some neuroscience on you, a bit about my story. I want to put the PowerPoint back up on the screen for a minute here and get into the next part of this, which is, we're calling this Plato's Garden. But before we get into Plato's Garden, there's a couple of people who are with us here today that have commented. And so let me just put it on the screen here to give you some excitement. Who's that? Veronica. I'm sorry, I can't see your last name, but we love and support you. That's awesome. Here's another one from Nat. Hello, Melissa, from Nat. And then this one from Monica. You two are making us grow. Genosis forever. That must mean something.
That's my leadership tribe that are teaching leadership group in the beginning of the call. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Let me just tell you a little bit about Plato's Garden, and then we'll get into this segment for the next little while. On the screen there, you see Plato was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece, founder of the Platonic school of thought and the academy, from the word academia. This was actually the first institution of higher learning in the Western world, Melissa. And there's a few words on the screen there, which we'll get into later: knowing, being, and doing. So there's this thing called the influences of context. And why I bring you into the garden is, you see Plato and his pals, they just hang out and they'd walk and they'd talk, and they'd just be talk. You know, there was no criticism, there's no judgment. And that's really how learning began. So there's three areas here, Melissa, that we'll be diving into through your story. One is called macro, what's happening in the world around you. So when you wrote the book or throughout your life, what was going on in the bigger world that influenced the public work that you're doing now? Second is meso, what was happening in your industry. And I would say that your industry, you were in financial services, marketing, we know your background, and then you created this platform of thought leadership. So what was going on around you there? And then micro is really what's happening in your personal life throughout this journey. And so I'm going to take that off the screen now, and we can get into the deeper conversation. Why we do it this way is all these three areas connect. And it's one of the things I learned in your book that was so cool, was how you really started connecting all the dots of your life, your professional life, etc. I'm going to read one last thing, and then I'm going to turn it to you, and we'll get into the story. And this was the introduction in your book, everybody. I'm looking at the book here, and on page number 1, I've got some highlights. So Melissa, bear with me. It says, Introduction, my soul-searching quest. She then told me to sit on the floor outside the classroom and not to make any noise. My family had told the teacher to remove me from all religious activities in the classroom. I knew my family was religious in a different way, and that we didn't celebrate holidays like others. I've chosen not to reveal the religion I was raised in because I don't want to bring it any negative attention. My earliest memory of feeling like I just didn't belong. She took me by the arm and brought me to the other classroom. Knocking on the door, she said, Melissa, you're not allowed to participate in Christmas activities, so I'm leaving her with you. That won't work, the other teacher replied. I'm also doing Christmas activities. Exasperated, Madame Soleil said, well, I don't know what to do, so you take her. I didn't feel strong. I felt ashamed, Melissa said. I was uncomfortable myself, both at home and at school. In trying to become me, I ended up looking outside myself, creating this mask after mask of whom I thought I should be. Wore those masks like armor until they began suffocating me. When my journey began in the first grade, it wasn't until later in life that I started to feel I was fully being me, free. Turns out my starting point was in one place I was most afraid to go searching within me. It all starts within. One of the bravest acts of self-love a person can understand is to decide to just be themselves. Take us into your story. That is so amazing.
That story, you say it, and even though I've done so much work on myself, coaches, healers, hypnotists, it still evokes emotion. Because you're a kid and you just want to fit in, and you just want to be doing what everybody else is doing. And then at home, there's like a different set of rules. And my dad would say, well, when you're different, that's strength. When you do what everybody else does, that's like, you're
Yeah.
not bringing your strength forward. So he always had that thing like, well, no, own this, you're different. But the thing is, it wasn't mine to be different about. I didn't agree with the religion that they chose. But what can you say as a child, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about parents, so when you look at your mother and your father, the two, like my dad left home when I was 12, he was 12, I was 12. And but my parents are from Fiji, but I was baptized here in Canada as a Catholic. So there are all these rules, and my dad was a Hindu, and of course that's a very different track. And he was actually a Mormon when my mom first met him. But a lot of these rules you're talking about in the home, who between your two parents, who do you think shaped you the most, and whose love did you crave the most? Love and attention.
interesting question. My dad was definitely the one. He
Yeah.
was the leader in the house, and my mom was the faithful servant. And of course, I craved my dad's love the most because it was so hard to get.
Yeah. Tell me about what were the things that you were doing? And I found something in your book on this. I can't remember the page on it, but did you get attention? Because you're writing about that in your book, about how, you grew up and you went into the world trying to be this. And would it be fair to say that, you were craving really the things that got you attention, but you also told us something in the book about how that really wasn't who you were. Talk about that and how you sort of unraveled that this really isn't me.
Well,
Not
I'm
what
not
really
sure what you're referring to in the book, but the way I got attention growing up was by achieving, right?
Yes.
So, getting 100%. It couldn't be 99%. It had to be 100%. And, even if I'd be on stage and I'd get like 4 out of 10 awards, it's like, well, how come you didn't get the 10 awards? So that was my way of getting acceptance and validation, as I always tried to hyperachieve. And that's kind of what I sent you when I was coming to you as guest on the show. Well, look at all my achievements, right? And the thing is, you see that on my website and you see that on my credentials, but truth is, I don't even believe all of them. I don't even feel like I have them. It's like,
wow, that is
people
yeah. No, go ahead. I was just saying, wow, that is a big statement. You didn't feel you achieved them. Tell us more. Why does that happen? You didn't feel you achieved that?
Because I just feel like I'm like everybody else. I have my issues like everybody else. Like, these credentials are just credentials.
Yeah.
Because certain people look for them, but that's not who I am.
Yeah, it's something. I'm going to put up on the screen here. We got a couple more comments that are coming in. So you got a lot of fans watching you on the stream. You rock, Melissa. That's Louise Sullivan. And we've got here's another one from Nancy DeSantis. Thank you for being so authentic. And let's just have a triple here. Henry Davos, Melissa, you're an inspiration for your Gnosis tribe members. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability. I can't wait to get to know you better. You're doing great here. So many fans you have on today. So as we get back into the book, I wanted just to take you forward to another piece of it. And I wanted to also plug something. Everybody, you can't see it unless you're looking at the screen. But Melissa, one of the things I really like about your book is at the end of each chapter, you have this paragraph that's a little box. It says CEO of your life coaching tip. And for example, no matter how hard things get, don't let negativity hold you back. Continuously ask yourself questions that enable new possibilities in every situation. At the back of the book, everyone, I've got all these little coaching tips listed. So it's a great reference book. And I've done a review for your book. So that's really notable. So let's get into the chapter here I want to talk about, which was about parenting. I'm fascinated by this because it means so much to me in my life. But tell us about the parenting piece that you wrote about.
Because what happens is we usually parent by default what our parents did. And if you want to parent differently, you have to consciously do things that are different. So you need to look at how I was raised, what I like, what I want to bring forward, and what I didn't agree with, and how I want to raise my kids, and then what do I have to do to do that differently? So for me, it was a big thing. I mean, I wanted to do the exact opposite of my parents. Maybe that wasn't the best thing either. There's a balance in between. So I was just always going by default. Well, my parents did this, so I'm going to do the opposite. Well, I didn't have birthday parties, so my kid's going to have the biggest birthday parties. And,
Yeah.
So, and then when I'd find myself, you start to feel before you lose it, you start to feel that your body's starting to go up. And I'd be like, oh, that's one of my parents coming up. That's not who I want to, show up. And I'd have to constantly be like taking a breath. How do I want to show up? And then communicate differently. So it's a constant effort to choose to do things differently, but you have to choose it. Otherwise you're just going to go to your default of what you were programmed with.
Well, thank you, everybody. We're here with Melissa Dawn, the author of a book we're talking about, Why Can't I Just Be Me? She's written another book as well, but this is a teaching moment. Go back and listen to this part of the show. I think you used some language there about what we're programmed with. This book reveals a lot. And I want to say to you that I love your story. I love you and I honor you for doing that, because when somebody comes out, Melissa, like this and reveals parts of their life, others like me, and I'm sure there's others right now watching us, say, you know what, that's my life. And in my brain, the way that I've neuroscience, my brain is triggered then to go back and find pathways of things that sometimes are in the unconscious that come up. And it gives me an opportunity to then listen to you and try to process that. I'm just going to read something here that was interesting. When I decided to enroll in coaches training, I once again got an earful of advice. My dad said, why would you spend so much money on becoming a coach? Coaching is just a fluffy thing. It's fad. Do your MBA. That's something credible and solid. Reason why I'm smiling is because in my work that I do with others, I come across that all the time. And that's why it's so important, this piece in your book. It's that, isn't it true? It's that one little thing that somebody says to us that could stick with us for a lifetime, that causes us to feel we're no good. You're fluffy. Tell us, Melissa, in your book and in your theories, how do people sort of get past that? What are some of the things they can do? And you can refer to the book as much as you want.
How do you get past your programming? Well, it's by sitting down and identifying the thoughts that are currently going through your mind. You kind of got to do an analysis on yourself. What are my daily thoughts? What do they look like? And who do they belong to? Is that thought coming from my mom? Is that thought coming from my dad? Is that thought coming from Google? And is this, maybe this was in my subconscious, but is this what I want to bring forward? So it's about identifying your thoughts. Yeah. And I think Elizabeth Gilbert has a quote, something like, you should choose your thoughts just like you choose your clothes, right?
That's great. That's a great thought. Choose your thoughts just like you choose your clothes. And are you saying we have the ability to choose our thoughts, right?
That's one thing we do have the full ability to do. if we choose, because a lot of people just allow their thoughts to automatically run in the background and they think they're victims. Yeah. But that's why my company is called CEO of Your Life. You can choose your thoughts, you can change your actions, and you can create a whole different life if you take the time to reflect and see, like, this is where I am, this is where I want to go. How do I have to change my thoughts, my words, and my actions to get there? I
was looking at the book again on chapter 12, just so you know where we're at. I'm talking about, it says, author your thoughts, author your life. Melissa, you've quoted in there Donald Hebb. What I like about the book too is there's citations. You cite researchers and other people's work, adds credibility. Psychologist Donald Hebb famously described this process as cells that fire together wire together. And then you've got this thing called 6 steps to reprogram your thoughts. So just without getting into explaining the whole chapter, touch on what do you mean by that in those steps? Because it leads to what we're talking about taking unconscious thoughts, I think, and trying to rewire them.
So let's say there's a thought that that's going on in your head every day and you're not comfortable with it. Yeah. A very popular one is, I'm not worthy. Okay, let's look at that thought. I'm not worthy. So notice every time that thought comes up, and then what do you want to replace it with? you know? So let's say you want to place it with, I am worthy.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of start making that connection. So people do this in different ways. You know, Dr. Joe Dispenza, he says, whenever you have a thought you don't like coming up, see it as a program and say, change the program. You know, what I like to do with my clients is a fire ceremony. Okay, let's burn, I am not worthy. And let's breathe in, I am worthy. So start making that connection of what you know, identify what you don't want. What do you want to like create it to? And then visualize the program you want to draw in. So visualize, what does it feel like to be worthy? You know, I feel good. I feel powerful. I feel excited. I feel I can take space. I feel I can share my thoughts and visualize all of that. And, you know, the more you can visualize it, then the more you can make that happen. And you need to do this with all the thoughts that are not serving you. Identify them. Say, you know, that like a program. I don't want this. Let's discard this. And what's the new program I want to bring in? And then visualize that. And the more you can do that on a daily basis, that's how you're shifting everything in your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you know, you have to make the time and actually dedicate time to do this work, right? And then maybe you can speak about, do you do this work on your own? What's the value of having a coach? That thing that we refer to as fluffy sometimes by old generation parents. I got to acknowledge what your dad said. When I first got into senior type leadership, I was at the top of a company. That was my C-level role, my first one. I was 31 years old, and I was offered a coach. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, because now I do that for a living, that I didn't want it. And I remember I was arrogant. I mean, back then I had some arrogance. It was about me, significance. I had the big paycheck, and, you know, I'm not really accountable because I'm running the company. And what I learned, Melissa, and myself, is I was afraid of what that was. I didn't understand it, but I'll give it back to you on this. What I learned about the power of a coach is doing the kind of work you're telling us, which I think is necessary for anybody in life, is the brain can't work reflexively on its own. I need to have somebody listening to me and then pausing me and having me reflect on thoughts and giving me the mirror, sharing back what I heard you say, type of thing. So this type of work, and so talk about that, the importance of this work. But how do you do it? Can you do it on your own? Do you do it with a coach? Does this book help you? Just anything you want to share there?
Well, I think you need a whole toolkit. So even though I'm a coach, I have a whole crew of people helping me. So I have my own coach. I have an energy healer. I have a hypnotist. You know, depending on what I need, I have my people supporting me. Even though I've done all this work, you know, it took us so many years to get to this point, and it takes us just as many years or more to reverse all the things we don't want to become who we really want to be. So when you're doing it on your own, you might have some insights, you know, especially if you take time alone and, you know, you ground and you meditate, you'll get some insights, but you won't go as far as you'll go if somebody else is pointing out your blind spots, you know, and that's why I love, thank you, Gnosis, all of you that are here. You know, imagine a group and there's like 25 people pointing out your blind spots. That's like, you know, personal growth on steroids. So it depends. Like, do I want to see my blind spots? Do I want to work on them? You won't go very far if you're doing it on your own. That's.
Thank you. And I put another comment on the screen here. You've got another tribe following you. There's no wall. Samhat. You rock, Melissa. Your book is great. I read it cover to cover. In my opinion, this is the beginning of the end of dictatorship. Here's another one from the same person. As a parent, I teach my girls, you do you and they do them. Stay true to who you are. Melissa, one of the things in the book I want you just to touch on is in the parenting section again. There are some tools. There's a chart I remember that where you write down your beliefs that maybe you picked up, and I remember some of your evocative words, which I understand well, like, you know, those beliefs, they're not mine, they're somebody else's. So it could be a parent. Like, I'll give you an example. My wife and I have been married a long time, and her father-in-law, who passed away, wonderful man, but he grew up in the Depression. So he would say at these Italian dinners, we'd go sit and he'd say things like, you know, what a bunch of crap, and watching TV and seeing Christmas and presents and things. And, you know, he had this belief system that money wasn't a good thing because of how the world used money. Also growing up through the Depression wasn't his fault, but he didn't have anything. So that formed a belief system, maybe a fear of money, I don't know. And what's interesting is that, I kind of grew up with another belief system from my own father, who was a military commanding officer, that my dad, the only time I got his attention was when I was doing everything perfect. My dad would always say to his buddies, when he was drinking, before he left home, he was an alcoholic. He'd say, Tommy's getting straight A's in school. And my brain basically went, the only time I get attention from my father is when I do A's in school, when I'm perfect. And so I grew up actually going into the business world as a workaholic. I drove my teams hard, and it took a lot of coaching a long, long time ago to break those habits, stop burning people out, etc. It was, as you're teaching us here, it was a couple of those limiting beliefs that I had to actually write down and then, do some things to shift them. Can you just say, hey, I want to change that belief? Can you just say, hey, I want to change it? Or is there an exercise, or give us an example of a simple exercise, something I assume you have to do repetitively to try and shift the belief? Let's use that example of I'm not good enough. What would you do if I was your client to help me? Do
you want to do it right now? Do you want to do a live thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so tell me, what's your limiting belief? I'm just gonna
the one I just shared with you, which is, and my limiting belief are unconscious beliefs. So these are embedded in my neural thought patterns, which I'm aware of, and so I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. Same kind of thing.
Okay.
Now I don't believe that. I don't believe it today, but I should tell you, it tries to overrule me almost every minute, even now when we're on the show. So go ahead.
So I want you to feel that energy of that limiting belief.
Yeah.
And then I want you to blow it out like the big bad wolf 3 times into this toothpick.
Okay. Okay.
And maybe there's other subconscious beliefs behind that you don't even know you're holding. So just blow out one more for the subconscious stuff you don't even know you're holding that you want to get rid of.
For some reason, that feels good. My shoulders are going down.
Exactly. So now I'm putting it into the fire, and I want you to say 3 times, I release you.
I release you. I release you. I release you.
And tell me when you start to feel a bit of that release in your body.
Oh, I am. I mean, it started with the breathing out. I could feel my shoulders kind of relaxing. But I'm feeling that. I can feel that physiology. I can feel that. It's almost like a sense of, I've told you, I've said it, and it's almost like overruling it. For some reason, it's that feeling, right?
So we breathe out what we don't want, and we inhale what we want. So what's the belief you want to replace that with?
Oh, I can add some affirmations that I've learned over time. I'm enough. Love flows through me. Success comes through me. I am enough. I am love. I am vision. I am, money, all these things, right?
So I want you to breathe that, inhale that into your heart 3 times. I am enough. I am worthy. All those things.
Just breathe in.
Inhale it and feel it coming into your body.
Okay.
How does that feel?
Feels great. Thank you.
So it takes about 30 days for this to sink in completely. So I recommend for the next 30 days, you write out once a day, I am enough, or whatever you breathed in, and to consciously lead from that place.
There you go.
If it comes up again, you can burn it again. Or like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you can just say change, like visualize that you're changing, aborting that program, and visualize the new one coming in.
Awesome.
And another thing, which is interesting, is after work like this is to take a salt bath or salt shower. And you're going to be like, why? Because Epsom salt, sea salt has detoxifying properties. So it allows you to detox, to further shed whatever's here. It allows you also to relax and have a better sleep. So I also recommend salt baths and showers after you do work like this.
That's awesome. Everybody, we're here with Melissa Dawn, the founder of CEO of Your Life, life coach. I've written some books. We're talking about why can't I just be me, and so many things. Melissa, this exercise is wonderful. So people, through reading your book and through implementing some of these simple tools, can make inroads. I'm a big fan of neuroscience. I think I mentioned through my brain injury, I actually fell in a bathtub. I was doing a ride for cancer for 2 days. You might have heard of the Ride to Conquer Cancer, 225 kilometers on my bike for a friend whose daughter died from leukemia. And the first night I went to shower, I lost my balance, fell back, broke my fall with my head, actually cracked the tub and it changed my life. And it's taken me years to recover. One of the things that I learned is they sent me to an advanced neuroplasticity clinic, and not getting into that. But one of the things I wrote about your book in my Amazon review, which I'll tell you about soon, is that you've infused into your work brain and neuroscience. So we don't have time to get into all that, but I want to let everybody know that's one of the great things I think about the book you've written. There's a lot of coaches and people out there who just talk. You got to change your beliefs. You got to find your authentic self. And it's like, my brain is going like, I'm confused. It makes no sense. When you bring in actual exercises and tie it to science and what does this do to the body and soul, it's really remarkable how much the difference is to embrace it. Dr. Andrew Huberman, who has a podcast called the Huberman Lab, I throw it out there as storytelling in the show. I listened to in the brain clinic. They told me to start listening to him. Now he's a Stanford University professor, and his podcast has become in the top 10 in North America. And it's some of the things he talks about is the concept of breathing. And he got into that whole thing about breathing. And what I didn't realize is when I get all stressed out and tense, you and I were talking about before the show, I had some camera issues to fix. So my sympathetic nervous system, which is now elevating, and everything now I'm on alert and I'm stressing, that just what you did with me, you didn't realize what a gift it was. But it wasn't just to do what we were trying to do with limiting belief. It actually dialed down, calmed my sympathetic nervous system. Let's put on the screen here another comment from someone. Nancy DeSantis, Italian background, father too, and getting 99% was not good enough. I was always aiming for perfection. After working with Melissa, I was able to find my value. Most authentic person I know. And then here's another one that popped in there. Melissa, you're magic, amazing. So you have obviously a lot of people that you've touched. I want to shift gears now as we're heading to the last 15 minutes of the show, the last segment, to the topic of relationships. Melissa, have you done book signings? I assume you have, or you've gone into
Yeah.
I know I'm a published author. And my first experience doing that, people love to hear an author read their work. It just brings another dimension. So Melissa, I've got a little video clip here. We're going to watch it for a few minutes. It's about a topic called negative relationships. And we'll get back into the conversation.
We're going to be talking about relationships right now, and many of you probably have that one relationship that perhaps you would deem it maybe a toxic relationship, maybe it's weighing you down a little bit, but here to help us, we're joined by Melissa Dunn, life coach. Welcome back to the show, Melissa. Great to have you here. And this is an interesting topic because, I think a lot of us don't even like to admit that we perhaps have a toxic relationship out there that is weighing us down. Do you think most people really do have one in their lives?
I think people have a lot more than they realize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's walk through. So you've got some great things. Before we get started, though, I want to mention you're now an author. Your brand new book is called I Attract What I Am. It's available on Amazon.com. So how does it feel being an author? Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
So how does it feel being an author and seeing your book in print like that?
Wow. I have to say I worked really hard. I put my heart and soul into it. I shared my raw truth with no filter.
Right.
And I have to say that now I have a new appreciation for authors and even people like yourself that put yourself out there every day and are now open to public feedback.
So what story
something.
do you tell in this book? You're sharing some of your personal life story?
I'm sharing my failures,
Okay.
my negative relationships, and how basically I turned my life around after that.
Okay.
So that readers can also see that you can change your life around. And I share the steps that I took so that they can perhaps use them as a guideline to create the life they truly want.
All right.
Okay, let's just take that off the screen. I'm going to come back to you here. Hold on, Melissa. That was an interesting, first of all, first question is, what's it like being on a live stream and seeing yourself talking on another show? What is it like?
I was shocked. That was 7 years ago.
Right.
I'm like, wow, I've aged a bit.
Okay,
I
let's
looked at that.
That's interesting because, again, look at the things you notice. The first thing is about how you look. Again, that's the way your brain's wired. I found it interesting because the stock ticker on that show that was running, it showed that it was like 25, 26 degrees summer. There's something about freak hail, and it was dating itself. But the reason why I put that on is, to create some excitement for you that you've gone into other parts of media and you've talked about this topic. It also featured your other book. So now what I want you to do is, for the next couple of minutes, just talk about the relationship piece. I think in this book, on chapter 14 was what I really was reading on that. Just tell us about toxic, unhealthy relationships. Anything you want. How do you sort of have dug into that? What do you teach? And then, of course, read us a couple of things out of the book at the same time, whatever you want.
The subtitle is Dysfunctional and Abusive Relationships. Your relationship with you comes first. And this is where a lot of people have trouble, right? So it's not selfish to put yourself first. Self-love is where compromise, co-creation, empathy, forgiveness, vulnerability, courage, and a host of other relationships strengthening elements come from. Dysfunctional or abusive relationships are extremely difficult. Their toxicity can feel like a cloud of thick, poisonous smoke. They sap your energy and cloud your vision, leaving you feel trapped. These dynamics make it nearly impossible for people under their cloud to be free. If you're truly going to be you, it is critical to identify any such relationship and get yourself out of that smoke. So how do you tell the difference between someone who's difficult or not a good fit for you and a truly damaging relationship? The world is full of difficult people and incompatible relationships where there isn't necessarily anything wrong, you just aren't a good fit for each other. Someone who's abusive or no longer capable of having a functional relationship with you will try to convince you that you are the problem. They will make you doubt yourself and your leader within. Emotional or psychological abuse can be insidious and hard to pinpoint. Often, abusers will act like you're the only person like they're the only person with your best interests at heart, and they're the only person who truly cares for you, making it difficult to see the abuse for what it is. They say they love you, or worse, they want to love you, but you are making it difficult. Abusers are often masters of manipulation, changing their personality according to whatever brings the attention they seek and makes them look good in the eyes of the public. It's important to remember that abuse is not always or exclusively physical. Emotional abuse or manipulation can take the form of transferring fault. They do something wrong and turn it around to be your fault. Gaslighting, making you doubt or question your perception of reality. Verbal abuse, belittling, criticizing, shaming, or other verbal bullying. Conditional withholding of love, money, intimacy, safety, communication, or affection in order to coerce. Emotional blackmail, guilt trips, threats, or intimidation. Competition, constantly one-upping you or comparing and pitting you against others. Invasions of privacy, going through your things, ignoring boundaries, stalking or following, and denying physical or digital privacy. Dog whistling, public comments that seem neutral to others but are known to be offensive, critical, or shameful to their target. These are just a few of the tactics an abuser may engage in, and they may even use only one. So take an honest look at this list of behaviors. Have you been subjected to any of these behaviors by someone in your life today or in the past? I experienced them all, although I didn't realize it until the past few years of my life. The damage and pain caused by emotional abuse is often so underhanded that even the victim is unaware. One defining element of emotional abuse is that it's consistent behavior which over time breaks down your self-worth, making you feel you need your abuser, you are not capable of functioning on your own, and that you are the bad one. In a relationship like this, whether with a boss, a family member, a friend, medical professional, or a romantic partner, you can never be you. Abusers always put the onus of change on the other person rather than themselves. They will never allow you to pursue what you truly want because that does not fit their needs.
All right, everybody, virtual round of applause for Melissa here. A little bit of a sound effect there. That's just awesome. So what we heard there was Melissa Dawn reading from her second book, Why Can't I Just Be Me, about relationships. So Melissa, I just wrote a few notes down here and want to riff with you on that. First of all, thank you for sharing that. Such great things in the book that can help people setting these boundaries with unhealthy relationships. And, you know, there's obviously two areas I think about. One is at home or personally outside of work, but the other one's in the workplace, which you can take it back and talk about that if you want. But I went, when I fell on my head, I didn't tell you the full story because this is about you, but seeing that we're sharing, I slipped into depression in 3 months. I had my first bout with depression ever, suicidal ideation, all that. And I spoke about that in a talk I gave. And I actually deflected and denied getting help because I'd heard all these stories from my leadership buddies about, you don't see a psychiatrist, you don't admit there's something wrong. And that little voice about my dad saying, be tough, the military man. And I finally gave in and went and got help. So I have in my care team, and I like what you said about all the people around you. I have a psychiatrist monthly, and I just sit down and I have this list. And it's funny when I see him, I have the list that builds about all things that piss me off or I struggle with or cause me stress. And I'll sit down and I will, just like a coach, I will say, I want to process this. I want to work through this. And these little things you referred to, I call them emotional barbs. And it's absolutely true. I've had people close to me in different parts of my life who I'll be speaking about something about perhaps their behavior that stresses me out. And they tend to find a way to twist it and turn it around and make me feel like I'm shamed. Like it's right back on me as it's my problem. But the actual person who was actually triggering me with their behavior was you. And so we don't have time to get into you teaching us everything, but I wanted to acknowledge this chapter in the book. That is it true that in the book you give tips, strategies on how to deal with relationships. You give options and things that people can work through. Just confirm what's in there for everybody.
Yes. Because the type of abuse I witnessed was emotional. It wasn't physical.
Yeah.
So I give tips, and a lot of us are undergoing that, and we don't even realize it. It could be a boss treating you like that, like it could be a partner. But it's, those things that I mentioned, some people will be like, oh yeah, that happened to me. And inside something's telling us something's off, but we're afraid to say it because when it's not physical, it's hard to pinpoint, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I give tips, and primarily if your inner voice is telling you it's wrong, well then trust that inner voice more than what the other person's saying.
Yeah, it's great. I'm back again, everybody. The book here, I've got a copy. Melissa signed for me. You got to get your copy, by the way, and go on Amazon, read it, post a review. That's how her work gets known. But I go into the book on page 125. Something that I looked at hard was 5 steps for handling an abusive or irreparable relationship. And then it goes through that. And then there's this whole section on professional relationships, which is, I think, very, very important. The last piece that your tip at the end, CEO of your life coaching tip, every relationship has one element that you can fully control, you. Advocating for yourself and owning yourself, ? And you give these things that you can do. And this is really so valuable and important. In the workplace, there's a lot of arrogant bosses, men or women. And I'm going to share a vulnerable thought with you about my own experience with my father. My dad passed away in 2018 from a heart attack in privacy of his home. But I was estranged from him for most of my life. It was only 3 months before, Melissa, that God, somehow I had this, reading the Bible, this thought that I've got to go back and make peace or talk to my dad. Did you know that the one thing that changed me was when I sat with my dad in that Starbucks, and he was a frail 80-year-old shell of a man that I used to know. And I said, tell me about grandfather. And Melissa, within 5-10 minutes, and I just sat there listening, Stein, he talked about his growing up in Fiji with an alcoholic father. And his life was all pretty much a reflection of what my life was that he brought into it.
Wow.
And that was the first thing that changed me. And I have this, my own advice, and you're the guru today, but I'm giving this to everybody because you brought it out of me, which I love you for doing. We'll love your parents and honor your parents. We don't have to love their behavior. But if you find out, tell me about your mom, your dad, and you find out their story And what we realized, and I tell my own kids that, is that I told my daughter this. I said, Dad was born good guy, but I'm kind of broken. And we learn beliefs and things from others that aren't who we are. But my parents, God help them both, some of the tough stuff I went through particularly physically and mentally from my father, made me tougher, and actually made me seeking to go and do therapy and do an understanding of cognitive behavioral and how it can change my thoughts and do all the things you're telling me. So I think you and I were put in a path, and many others, to experience those hardships because somebody has called on you, Melissa, to go out and be the one to help so many.
First of all, thank you for sharing what you said about your parents. You're right. By talking, we inspire each other. So it's important to see who they are and that you can love them, but not like maybe the way they parented. I like the way you separated that, that there's a big distinction there. And, apparently the way we parent, if we don't work on ourselves, the way we parent, that way will go down up to 7 different generations. So like you, because you chose to work on yourself, your child's having a different experience. And then all the way down to your grandchildren will have a different parenting. So it's important to reflect on your parenting because it goes down for many generations. And 2, when you're talking about what you can't be with, I always say this to my clients is when there's a trigger, that's your roadmap of where you need to look and where you need to heal, right? So every time you get triggered, write it down. maybe talk to a therapist or a coach about it, but that's a roadmap to your healing. So when someone says, my boss triggered me, okay, but that's a gift.
Yes.
And that is that it's making you look somewhere that you need to heal and you need to work on.
Yeah, thank you for that. Big word, everybody. Teaching moment. Come back, and when you listen, trigger. Look into that and dig deeper into when something triggers you to feel uncomfortable. Usually that's the point, as Melissa's taught us, of there's an emotional pain going on, and that's usually something that you can dig into and resolve and change your life. So you ready for some excitement?
Sure.
You ready for some excitement? All right.
Yeah.
That was Melissa showing that she's excited. So we're gonna.
I'm overwhelmed. I'm sorry. I am excited. I'm just overwhelmed.
I'm poking at you. So we're gonna go into something brand new I'm doing on the show here, and this will be my first gift to you, and it's called the Imagining with AI. Imagining with AI. I don't know if the word artificial intelligence is the right title, but AI is changing the world, and you know what? It is something that I embrace. Welcome to Imagining with AI, where I took the story of Melissa Dawn's life, the early beginnings, everything I learned from what she wrote to me in her book, and this, even today, what we heard. And I said to AI, I want you to create me 3 images of the beginning Melissa, of the Melissa in the tough part of her life, and in the transformed Melissa. I have on the screen there, Melissa, some words. I'm going to read the first one out to you. Mm-hmm. This is what AI came up with, and then we'll show you the picture. Past life as a corporate VP. This image shows Melissa in a luxurious but cold office, highlighting her former corporate life. Despite its success, left her feeling disconnected and unfulfilled. And here is the image.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And part of this segment, Melissa, is, and this is the first time I'm doing it, but what I really want you to do is I wanted just to see what you do. So I'm looking for emotions, laughter, what you did, anything you want to blurt something out. You can say anything you want. It's on camera here. So we just heard your first reaction, which was, okay, now let's go to the next one. Number 2, transition to authenticity. In this image, Melissa is in a serene landscape, removing a mask from her face, symbolizing her journey towards self-discovery and authenticity. The background reflects the dawn of a new beginning. We didn't give AI pictures of you. It just came up with an avatar. So are you ready for this one?
Yeah. Oh, oh my goodness. AI is pretty good.
Give me one. Label an emotion. Label one emotion, one word. What's an emotion? Label it that you feel right now.
I see beauty in this picture. Like she looks so happy.
Okay, that's
her mask off.
Yeah. So that's labeling emotions. You talked about it in your book. Label it, tame it, or tame it or something. The one word you said, which I caught, was happiness. Mm-hmm. This made Melissa feel happy. Think about that, everybody, because this is part of the journey that she put herself through. All right, let's go to the last picture. Current life as a coach and speaker. Final stage depicts Melissa in a vibrant workshop setting, in confidently engaging with a diverse audience. The environment is warm, inviting, emphasizing her fulfillment and impact as a coach. These images are designed to evoke the emotional and transformative journey Melissa has experienced. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Let's see if we can put a sound effect on here. There it is.
Oh,
one word, label an emotion. What emotion do you feel when you see that?
Joyful surprise. I'm going to put 2 words.
Joyful surprise. There you have it, everybody. All right, so we're going to remove that. Going to remove that from the screen now. Congratulations to you for being the first to go through imagining with AI. I'll be citing those images, sending them to you as part of the final show package. Those are media images, and you can use them as you want. But isn't it incredible how you've taught us today, Melissa, about the power of visualization? And just those 3 images, when you look at them, isn't it fair to say that you could probably thinking about 1,000 words that you could talk about, right?
Exactly. It's
all right.
Beautiful.
Now, what I'd like to do is also do another shout out for the book. So hold up your book for the last time and just again, tell us where people can get it and the title.
Why Can't I Just Be Me? Remove the masks that hide you from the world and from yourself. And you can get it on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Nobles. I know there's more. I just can't think of them right now. I think the easiest for everyone is Amazon. If you're in Canada, maybe Indigo.
Yes, the book. So now I'm revealing, first time on the Quiet Warrior Show live stream, the review I've written for your book that was posted on Amazon. And everyone, you can read books and go post reviews, tell people what you thought about it. You can do it on Amazon. I encourage you to do it on goodreads.com as well, a secondary place, which is more for where authors post reviews, not just Amazon, where they're also selling products and services. So are you ready? I'm going to read this to you. It's a bit lengthy, but this is a long one. It's condensed on Amazon. So the review title is Embracing Authenticity, a compensative guide to being yourself. I'm looking at another screen here. In the realm of self-improvement and personal development, Melissa Dawn's Why Can't I Just Be Me emerges as a profoundly insightful guide that champions the art of authentic living. Through its meticulously structured chapters, this book not only facilitates a deeper understanding of oneself, but also provides practical tools, strategies that are readily applicable in everyday scenarios, whether in spheres of business or personal life. Dawn's approach is integrative, combining rich anecdotes from her extensive coaching experience. Robust theoretical foundation in neuroscience and psychology is weaved within. This blend not only enriches the narrative, but grounds the reader in scientifically backed methodologies, making the journey towards self-discovery both engaging and educational. Each chapter thoughtfully concludes with a summary tip, which I said to you I love, a feature I found particularly useful for reinforcing core messages. This culminates in a comprehensive list at the book's conclusion, serving as a quick reference guide that readers can return time and time again. Additionally, the inclusion of an assessment tool and links to Melissa's other works delve deeper into this personal growth journey. What sets this book apart is its universal applicability. Dawn writes with a voice that resonates with a diverse audience, from seasoned business professionals to individuals simply navigating complexities of everyday life. Her lived experiences combined with her professional insights provide a relatable and authoritative perspective that encourages readers to shed their protective masks and embrace their true selves. And finally, Why Can't I Just Be Me is neither overly lengthy nor superficially brief, striking an ideal balance that keeps the reader engaged from start to finish. I highly recommend this book to anyone on the path to self-realization and those eager to genuinely reconnect with their authentic selves. Melissa Dawn offers more than advice. She extends a compassionate invitation to transformation that is both practical and profound. Congratulations, Melissa.
Thank you so much. You know, when you put your work out there, you're not sure how it's going to be received. And it means a lot to me that you wrote that. Thank you.
You're welcome, and you're so worthy of it. Again, that's a long one. I'll send you that again. It's been condensed for Amazon, so it reads a lot faster for those who are wanting to pick up books and check them out. So congrats. And finally, as we go to wrap up and give you the last word, we're inducting you into the Quiet Warrior community. So you probably didn't know, but you're getting an award today. So I just want to show you one of my cameras in the studio is out today. But I'm going to put it up on the screen. Tell me, can you see that?
I see a person with their arms folded.
Yeah. So basically, you see that coin, right?
Yeah.
So this is what's called a challenge coin. And when I founded the show, I wanted something that would be something you could carry with you that would connect you to all the other quiet warriors in the world. We're now in 17 countries. We have 270 people who have come on like you. They're very unique people. Yourself, you come here to tell us about something in your life that you turned into something that empowers you, but you're doing it in service to others. A little bit about challenge coins. They surfaced during World War I. A practice of carrying them, designated specifically for a unit. It was popular with the Army Special Forces, carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged to prove affiliation with that unit resulted in a number of consequences for those who could not produce the coin. It's kind of fun. The most popular required a coinless soldier to buy a round of drinks. That practice continues to be popular today. The front of the coin, these are hand painted and crafted, and raised letters is the image of the show. But the back is the detailed image of the hero's journey narrative by Joseph Campbell's work, which is all about narrative. And it is very intricate. And this is quite a hefty coin. And again, they're exclusive. So on that note, I want to welcome you to the Quiet Warrior community. Congratulations.
So I actually get that? You're going to send that to me?
Absolutely. You'll be receiving that award, and you're officially connected now, and we'll be connected for life. That challenges you to keep doing what you're doing, Melissa, because it's just incredible.
Thank you.
So congratulations. You're welcome. Well, let's move to wrap up. Everybody, it's been a wonderful tour. We've had so many comments on the screen today. We're here with Melissa Dawn. We talked about Plato's Garden and her journey and her work, and we did some imagining with AI and those images. You got to come back and look at the book authoring, and the reading by Melissa of her book was a highlight, and the induction into the Quiet Warrior community, and for me, was a real treat. Why we did so much of those things, Melissa, is that we'll be able to edit this for you so you can use this show in marketing different ways. You can use the part where you're reading the book, or you can use the part where I read your review and use that as a tool to market your whatever you want. We created today, hopefully for you, what was an extraordinary experience. And I know I've enjoyed every minute of being with you. On that note, I'm going to give it back to you for the last word. Anything you want to say, where people can get a hold of you and your book. And as I give you that, 4 words: wisdom, strength, leader, love. These are 4 words I wrote down that I'd like to attach to you in this interview. Over to you.
Thank you. You can go to my website, which is at the bottom, ceoofyour.life. You can email me if there's anything coming up you want to share at joyful@melissadawn.ca. I'm overwhelmed. Don't hesitate to reach out if something is coming up for you as you're watching this.
Find that true passion, like you've heard from Melissa Dawn today, and live that life that you deserve and desire. And we'll see you all again on the Quiet Warrior Show. Melissa, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for doing this awesome show.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
I put the wrong music on. So
you want me to come back?
No, here we go. All right. In 3, 2, 1, just be quiet and we'll put on.